Hi, this is Dee, and you're listening to my podcast, Let Me Clear My Throat. On today's episode, we're doing episode 8, actually, of the Sobriety E-Book, Your Guide to a Better Life, written by Chris Elkins. I got it off of drugrehab.com. This is the 7th episode of me going over this e-book. It was about 100 pages long, so I've been trying to break it down into different sections and different episodes to try to go over them bit by bit. Some of them have some questions and some workbook sections that we go over, and basically you just go through and answer the questions. There's not a whole bunch of them, but there are some, and it's just a matter of going in there and being honest with yourself. And there's no right or wrong answers. Nobody can see these answers or know about these answers except you, and if you want to show them. You do not have to share them with anybody. They are between you, yourself, and, everything that you're struggling with. But you can go back through and change the answers as you grow, as you heal, as you take your journey through what you're trying to get through. So, if you have a pen and paper and you want to write them down as I go, you're more than welcome to. Or if you want to stop, because this is pre-recorded, if you do want to stop and go back and write them down and answer them after the fact, you're more welcome to. You do it whatever works for you. You can go to You can go to drugrehab.com. And you can pull it up yourself. You can read it as we go through. You can also print that out. Whatever works best for you. This is a journey that not everybody does the same way, but the goal is the same, and that's basically healing, getting better, recovery, dealing with yourself, being truthful to yourself, owning yourself, but also to reteaching yourself how to relive your life and do it in a way that you're living life and you're not letting life live you. And self-medication does a lot to a person. And if you have multiple ways of self-medicating, then you have more things hanging on. I want to say more things. You have a lot greater deal of recovery, I guess, so to speak, respectfully, of different varieties of self-medication that you're using, if that makes sense. Not saying that your recovery or sobriety is harder than anybody else's. It's just you have a lot more that you're trying to overcome in the forms of the variety of different self-medication techniques. And when I say sobriety, or when I say addiction, addiction goes far more than just drugs and alcohol. And a lot of people don't even look at alcohol as an addiction. When you see somebody and they say, "Oh, I'm an alcoholic," they don't say, "I'm an alcohol addict." They're an alcoholic. So usually when somebody says addiction, they automatically think drugs. And you can be addicted to pretty much anything, or actually anything. And it could be excessive, it could be good addiction, but it also can be bad forms of addiction. I mean, like we talked about before in my other podcast, it's not a bad addiction to be addicted and complimenting yourself and praising yourself and giving yourself pep talks and self-esteem booster. It's not an addiction to do positive reinforcement on yourself that does not cause physical, mental, financial, or any other type of repercussion that affects in a negative way. So you can have an eating disorder, you can have a gambling problem, you can smoke nicotine, or you can be a vapor, you can be addicted to your phone, you can be addicted to porn. The list goes on and on and on. And so when I talk about addiction, I want you to keep in mind that self-addiction, self-medicating, is all forms of any type of negative reinforcement of giving you the, comfort, if you will, of getting through whatever it is you think you need to turn to that self-medication for. And we're just going to kind of go on through this, and I'm going to recap the other episodes that I went through, and so that way you can kind of know what we've gone over. So if you want to obviously go back through and listen to them, please do so. I think, but I'm not certain, this is either my 51st or 52nd podcast, I believe. So feel free to check out my other podcasts. I have them on Podbean, and I also have a YouTube channel at D Let Me Clear My Throat. So we're going to get started on this, and we'll see how far we get into this. It's the Sobriety E-Book from drugrehab.com, Your Guide to a Better Life by Chris Elkins. And it has a welcome letter from Dr. Huckabee, and he basically goes over his experiences, his outcome, his positive reinforcement of positive words and encouragement to people that are going through the same similarities. So that's at the beginning of it. Then in part one, we have how to use this ebook, quick tips for sobriety, understanding addictions, recovery, and relapse. In episode 2, we had workbook questions, making the choice, setting goals, create goals, creating a support system, finding a safe environment, and evaluating your environment. In episode 3, we had workbook questions, setting boundaries, communicating boundaries, think about your relationships, create your own boundaries, and establishing consequences. In episode 4, we had workbook questions. We went over triggers and cravings, craving questionnaire, and avoiding triggers. In episode 5, we had some questions, workbook questions. We had coping skills, coping behaviors, and coping behavior questionnaire. In episode 6, the last one we just did, how to decide how you'll cope and keep track of how you'll cope. We also went over stress management, how you relieve stress, stress management checklist, time management, evaluating your time management skills. So that was all in the 6th episode there, that one was. So in this episode 7, we are going to go over handling relapse, making an emergency relapse prevention plan. We also have resources for sobriety, organizations in your community, support groups, numbers to call, reflect on what you've accomplished. And this is what's left in the book that we're going to be going through. I'm not for sure on how much of this we're going to accomplish in this episode. Well, Amazon. I don't know what Amazon's got to do with this, but I must have Amazon on my mind. YouTube, not even similar to rhyming with Amazon. While they may let us have a lot of room to record and talk and stuff, Podbean has a 2-hour limit. So we're going to keep this, hopefully, no, we will keep this under not 2 minutes. Listen to me. Maybe I need to go take a nap. I promise I'm not on anything. Gives us a 2-hour limit, and we're going to do this under 2 hours. So however we get into the farness of this is how many we're going to go. I'm just going to be quiet and start reading. So I'm okay. It's been a day today. Let me tell you, it's been a day. Anyway. Okay, so handling relapse. We're on page 80. One of your long-term goals should be to avoid drinking alcohol or using drugs. When someone in recovery succumbs to a craving, it's called a slip. A slip is an isolated incident. It's a warning sign for relapse, but many people slip without relapsing. People in recovery often feel embarrassed or ashamed if they slip, but lying or hiding about a slip leads to secretive behavior and deception. It can lead to isolation, which is a warning sign for relapse. And like I said before, if you're doing this, if you're trying to understand what I'm trying to say, I applaud you. If you're listening to this podcast, then you have come here for a reason. And I appreciate that. I really, honestly, from my heart, I do. But you have taken the first step in the direction that is a positive direction of you growing and healing. And I like to call it healing, because you're healing from whatever trauma, whatever triggers, whatever it is that you have went through that have helped you to think that self-medication is your only way of comfort and survival. And that's a big thing. And the most important thing is being honest with yourself. And I don't want to say you can lie to anybody, you know, I mean, you can lie to anybody, but you can lie and lie and lie. But the bottom line of it is, are you lying to yourself? Because in the end of it all, it's your life. And it's your life whether or not you're laying in that casket, or if they find you on the side of the road, or in a ravine, or on your bed, or wherever you land. And especially in today's world, there is so much going on with overdoses and poisoning and contamination, and it's everywhere. And one of my very, very dearest friends, she's like a sister actually to me, her daughter's friend died from an overdose. She was smoking a joint, and the pot was laced with fentanyl, and she died. So it's going in everything anymore, it seems. There are just heartbreaking stories. I've read stories where an 18-month-old died from a fentanyl overdose because she got into her dad's fentanyl. And there was another baby, I can't remember how many months old it was. It wasn't over a year old though, and they died from a drug fentanyl overdose because they too got into the fentanyl and had ingested it and died. So it's real. It doesn't discriminate. It doesn't discriminate on who you are, what you look like, where you live, what your income, is, what you have, what you don't have, what drug you do and what drug you don't do, or even if you don't do a drug. You have no idea anymore what is being put into anything that we consume. And that is the most scariest thing of all. But to intentionally try to self-medicate yourself to alleviate whatever it is that you're trying to deal with, it doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you a person that hurts. It makes you a person that is trying to cope, that is trying to survive their very next breath, and trying to decide if they even want to take it, but then sometimes don't even get that choice if they're even going to have it. And so I'm hoping that with this Sobriety E-Book that I can at least make some type of impact, if anything, to help you try to know, for one, you're not alone, even in a room full of people where you feel alone. There are many, many resources and people out there that care and have gone through or went through or are going through, or even just are there. They're trained. There's trained professionals. There's people that have found out the hard way of the knocks of life, and you're not alone. There's so much to live for, and I know that might sound crazy to a lot of people. And I've went over several times in my podcast very candidly about myself. I talked about it in the 6th episode. I am a self-harm survivor, and I am a suicidal victim survivor, and among many other things. But I am very open about that, because I was to the point I didn't want to die. I just wanted the pain to stop. And the part of me that was carrying everything of my emotions just couldn't carry it anymore. And it was too heavy. And now I am trying to heal that part of me. And doing these podcasts, honestly, they do help me. They honestly do. But I am trying to reach out to other people as well in hopes that it makes a difference. Because even if I just help one person, even if it's just myself, I pray that it's more. But even if I just help one person, then it's all worth it. So I'm going to continue on. I just want to put that little side note in there. It says, if you slip, talk to your therapist, a sponsor, support group, or someone you trust. Determine why you slipped and brainstorm ways to avoid a slip in the future. A slip doesn't mean you're destined to relapse, but it is a major risk factor. Relapse occurs when someone becomes incapable of living a sober life. It's a return to the self-destruction, compulsive behavior that characterizes addiction. Relapse has distinctive warning signs. Now, I went over a few things before in the last podcast where they try to have a game plan of coping, because we went over coping and stress management and stuff. How to handle stress, how to handle coping, which all of this associates together. I mean, obviously it does. Everything you do, everything that associates with you or associates around you becomes a part of you in some way or form, I believe, because it leaves an impact or an influence some way, somehow on a person. And eventually it depends on the negativity of the impact of whatever it is that you're going through or have been exposed to, if you will, like comments or opinions or behaviors or people that have manipulated or hurt you or stereotyped you or degraded you, humiliated you. The list goes on. And left your self-esteem what you feel probably is just beyond repairable. And all that negativity, all that pain eventually becomes the reflection you see in the mirror. And that's not fair. And I talked about that in Give Me Back My Mirror. It talks about self-reflection and also talks about trying to see yourself as you, not by what everybody in society has made you believe you look like or what you're supposed to look like and feel. Whether you have your eyes open looking or not, you should be able to see yourself with your eyes closed. Because you should be able to see yourself with your heart, with your mind, with your well-being, your soul, the whole kit and caboodle of you. But you have to try to teach yourself to look at yourself again for the first time and actually look at you through your eyes. And that is a huge challenge. Because sometimes that reflection that comes back is not so understanding and not so gentle, not so nice, and can have some really, really painful eyes looking back at you. So try to do positive affirmations. Try to talk to yourself in positive ways. If you catch yourself saying negative about yourself, or, I'm so stupid, I can't believe I did that, revert that. Be like, no, I'm not stupid. Maybe that was just something not so smart that I did, but I understand, and let's just try to learn from it. What do we need to do for here? Just try to take something negative and turn it into something positive. It's kind of like when you go on a job interview. When they say, what is your strongest weakness? What is your biggest, your strongest point, and your weakest point, or however they word that. Your strength, your positive strength, and your weakest strength, negative strength, whatever it is. So I have learned that, when they ask you what is your negative, what's the negative about you, your negative strength, talking negative about yourself should not even be a question asked, because that is you telling them, oh, I'm going to put myself down. I'm going to point out my negativity in this interview to a complete stranger on a job that I want to get. So let me tell you something negative about myself. I think that is the most ridiculous question in a job interview. That being said, I actually have a very good response to that. You take the negative and turn it into a positive. You can be like, well, one of the negative things about this is I don't have a lot of experience per se in this type of line of work. However, I have whatever the positive stuff is that you have. And I believe I would be a big asset and be able to provide a great contribution to your company. Take the negative of, while I might not have a lot of experience in this field, or I might not be familiar with this company in depth, however, I am very resourceful. I am capable of, finding out my resources and my, whatever it is, but also to not being afraid to ask questions when I don't know them. However you want to word it, but take the negative and turn it into something positive. And I've never understood why they ask that in job interviews. And I hated that question so much to the point where I actually would prepare for a job interview ahead of time. Okay, they're going to ask the negative and positive thing. I need to have an answer. So you take the negative and you turn it around. That's just like with your train of thought. If somebody or something is trying to get you to say or do something negative about yourself, that's like giving yourself a bad review in a job interview. But it's worse because you're giving yourself a bad review and talking smack and bullshit about yourself and putting yourself down about your life, about you as a human being, as a person. Somebody that matters and is just as important as the person that's giving you the interview, just as important as anybody else in this world or anything else is. Plain and simple. You don't get job interviews in life. Life is not an interview. Life is a gift. It's a blessing. And why it might not seem like it is, that's where the pain starts. Because if you cannot look around you at all the blessings around you, and the very first one that you should start with is the one that's opening their eyes in the morning, and that's you. That's where it starts. Your life starts and ends with you. And nobody has the right to tell you to talk crap about yourself. Ever. Period. And if anybody's listening to me that does job interviews, please take note. Because everybody's got problems with self-esteem. If you want a positive employee, have positive questions. Plain and simple. Because you don't know what somebody is going through on that other end. What if it's a homeless person? Let's hypothetically say it's a homeless person that has got the chance of getting cleaned up to come in for a job interview to revamp their life and start over. Do you think they want to come in and tell you about all the trials and tribulations and all the stuff that they've went through? Because this is where a lot of people, I believe, misunderstand the question of what is your greatest weakness? What is your worst strength, your weakness or whatever. They're talking about job related. They're not talking about as a human being. But unfortunately, a lot of people, that's how they answer it. And when they say, tell me about yourself, they don't mean, oh, I'm blah, blah, blah. There's so many kids, grandkids, blah. That's not what it means. Job related only. And maybe that's a little off subject here, but it's not. Why? Because it's about life. Everything you talk about, everything you do, everything you say, everything you look at, everything you feel has to do with the same thing. You. You. You are the common denominator in everything you do. Plain and simple. And sometimes that gets overwhelming. It gets overwhelming to be you. It gets heavy. And you don't know what to do. And so you try to find comfort wherever you can find comfort, even if it's just for one moment. And unfortunately, majority of the time anymore, I feel you're chasing something you're not going to find. Because that hollow feeling inside of you is not going to be satisfied by a drug or self-medicating form of negativity of some way. It does not love you. It is not there for you. It is not going to comfort you. It is not going to keep you safe and warm at night. It is not going to protect you. It is not going to be understanding. It is not going to give you a coupon for a discount. It will go ahead of you. And if you don't catch up to it, it will leave you behind, leave you for dead, and go on to the next person. It doesn't love you. We're going to go on. And I say this with full-hearted love in my heart. I do. I really do. And if you are going through something, whether if anybody understands it or not, it's real to you, then should be real to others. But unfortunately, not everybody looks at it that way. They might say they understand, and some do. Some understand way more than what we ever could, or somebody else ever could. But that doesn't mean it needs to be at your expense. And people like to make fun and judge about things they don't understand, when instead they should be thanking God and counting their blessings that they don't. And if people were more understanding and compassionate and less judgmental, this world would be a wonderful place to be. And self-medication would not even be a word out of the mouth. My opinion. It says risk factors for relapse include the following: exposure to drugs or alcohol, exposure to trauma, isolation, boredom, prolonged sadness, anxiety, or anger, romanticizing about drugs or alcohol use, avoiding therapy, avoiding support groups. Another thing too would be trigger factors, places you go, gas stations where they got all that nice paraphernalia and whatever behind the counter, and they've got it worded differently for whatever case may be, or they got the synthetic stuff that they sell, but the real stuff is illegal and get you arrested for the rest of your life pretty much. But if you buy something synthetic and made in a lab somewhere and the government can collect on it, then okay, it's good for you, even though it's more dangerous. But things like that, or going to get your blood drawn, if somebody is an intravenous, or just whatever the case may be. There are a lot of triggers, and that could be a big, huge issue. So there's things to keep in mind with that. Trying to find ways to de-escalate yourself and different coping mechanisms are also key things, and we talked about that in the last episode. Trying to find different ways of coping and managing your stress, managing your time, managing your well-being, if that's something that you can find to do, because what works for one doesn't work for somebody else, and that could be a huge life-saving factor. Stress is the biggest risk relief. Let me start that line over. I'm just having a day today. It has been a day today. Very big day. And I mentioned that. There was a off subject, but so this morning there was a semi truck driver that tried to take this curb in front of her house, or this corner, and turn on this other road. And we live in the country, and he shouldn't be on that road. He didn't make the turn. Instead, he snapped the light pole in half, ripped the light down, snapped the stop sign in half, ripped power lines down, ripped cable lines down, put the electric line in the middle of the road in the field, and laid another one on top of a building. And so we are still without cable. Our lights are back on, thank goodness. But we've had so many incidences over here that the light company actually knows who we are. He was like, I pulled up your address, and he said, I immediately thought, those poor people. This is like the 4th time in a year that we have had our power and our cable messed up from accidents and them yanking the cords out. And he slowed down, but then he continued to go. He knew he did it. And luckily, that live wire did not catch that building on fire. But it shook our house. It shook the neighbor's house. It was pretty loud. So that's been my day. So anyway, stress is the biggest risk factor for relapse. That's why learning to avoid, manage, and relieve stress is paramount to recovery. Slips and relapse are common parts of the recovery process, but they should be avoided if possible. Overdoses commonly occur when people return to heavy alcohol or drug use after long periods of absence. Relapse can cause job loss or health problems. It can also damage relationships because many people don't understand addiction. They think someone who relapses isn't trying hard enough. Unfortunately, relapse into addiction is just as common as relapse into another chronic disease, such as diabetes or hypertension. So say you have a diabetic, and they're just eating all kinds of candy, or all kinds of sweets, or all kinds of something, or they're not taking their diabetes medicine. I had a friend, one of my very, very, very best friends. She had diabetes, and she wasn't taking her medicine, so she was getting blood clots. And she lost both her legs and one of her arms. And they wanted to take her last arm, and she said, please leave me something. Not too long after that, she ended up dying. But the point is, taking care of yourself, regardless of the fact. Knowing that you are diabetic, and knowing that you have something going on with you. Even if you don't, I guess that wouldn't be fair to say if you know. But I guess that's also a way to look at it. Because it's just as common as somebody that is diabetic and eats a bunch of snacks. Some people might say, I'll just take an extra insulin shot later, or I can have it, diet controlled. But when you give somebody 20 or 30 bucks and be like, hey, can you go to the store and get me nothing but junk food? That's not safe. That's not safe. And that's also a form of an addiction, I like to believe. Comfort food. Unfortunately, relapse into addiction is just as common as relapse into another chronic disease, such as diabetes or hypertension. If you relapse, it's important to return to treatment, support group meetings, or some form of therapy. You'll learn from mistakes, recognize what caused the relapse, and be better prepared for recovery in the future. Now, we read a question in our last episode, and I just thought this was like the second stupidest question I've ever heard. It said something like, what do you think you would do if, how do you think you would handle a trauma? Something traumatic happening to you, like a specific trauma. How would you know that? You cannot even believe or fathom or comprehend how you would react in a trauma of a situation. That's like saying one of your parents died. Do you know how you're going to react? You know how you're going to feel? You're going to know what you're going to do? No. You have no clue. That was the most ridiculous question, all due respect. I didn't understand that question. So, anyway. Make an emergency relapse prevention plan. Relapse prevention plans come in multiple forms. Every goal, boundary, and stress relief technique that you've created or practiced is part of an overall relapse prevention plan. Those tools are the foundation of your sobriety journey. But you also need an emergency plan when you're in crisis. An emergency plan helps you when you're experiencing a craving, can't think straight, and know you need help. It's your last resort plan for when all else fails. Start by reflecting on your past. So we're going to go over some questions here. And again, be honest with yourself. And there's no right or wrong answers, and you can change them as you continue to grow in your journey and your sobriety and what you're going through. What prevented you from stopping or led to a slip in the past? What prevented you from stopping or led you to slip in the past? List some specific reasons. Number 2, what thoughts entered your head before you started drinking or using? What crossed your mind before you started drinking or using? Number 3, what prevention techniques worked in the past? What have you done in the past that worked for you? Think about the time that you were in recovery, per se, and got started, and the reason why you wanted to do it, and how it was working for you, and how you felt. Or if this is your first go round, think about the reasons of why. Why are you wanting this journey? What has gotten you to this point where this is your feeling and your emotion, that this is what you're ready to do? So try to go and think of positive things, to be honest with yourself about things, and try to go from there. Number 4, what techniques didn't work for you in the past? So what have you done before that didn't work for you? Maybe you thought you were strong enough to be around certain people or go certain places, or maybe you could handle going to a bar to do some karaoke, or to play some pool with the guys or girls, or whatever the case may be, or go to a wedding that was known for alcohol and handling it. So what did you do? How did you handle it? And what didn't work for you? And then trying to figure out, I guess, what didn't work for you, on how you can also reorganize or revamp that, or rethink the strategy of it to make it more doable for you. Because maybe the technique was okay, but maybe the process of it just needs a little bit of reorganization, if you will, if that makes sense. For each cause, thought, or craving that kept you from stopping or led to a slip, create a list of actionable steps to help you in the future. So it starts off cause, thought, or craving. And then it's got a line. So you do each of these as a cause, a thought, or a craving. So number 1, what stress relief technique or coping strategies will you use? So what techniques will you use in order to cope? Or what do you think that you could use? And what to do about it. And at that, I'm going to throw another one in there. Have a backup plan to that plan. Because what technique might work one time might not work the next time. Doesn't mean the technique's not good. It just means at that particular moment, for your mindset, it wasn't the option to choose. So try to think of alternatives as well, so that way if you try one, it doesn't work, then you have a backup plan to go into. Where will you go? Where will you go? And how will you get there? Who will you call? Be sure to list backup numbers. So these are actionable steps to help you. So if you're in a situation, where will you go? Like if you have somewhere to go, who and how will you get there? Who do you trust to call? And make sure you have their numbers. Let's say Back in old school, we wrote numbers down, or we memorized them. We were the Rolodex. um, but sometimes you don't have access to your phone, or numbers or contacts. And if you're messed up, and I say messed up as in maybe you're too upset, and you can't function or focus, make sure you have some type of your backup numbers maybe on speed dial. So you wouldn't have to necessarily look up their name. You just know how to push a button and it takes you to who you need to go. What emergency service will you turn to? And there are hotlines we're going to go over on page 92 here in a bit. And it has a list of different hotlines. Why will you remain sober? Write words that will inspire you. Give you positive things that inspire you. You spent most of your life listening to negative things and hurtful things. Take it around and twist it and make it positive and make it more uplifting. Challenge yourself on it. Make it the challenge of positivity. What stress relief techniques or coping strategies will you use? Oh, I'm sorry. This is the same question. The first one was for the cause of it. The second, same questions will be the thought of it, having the thought of it, like if you're thinking of it. And then the next one is craving, so you're craving it. Or if you're like in the situation, like you're there. So they have these. These are the same questions. Your emergency plan may include a list of support group meetings to turn to, people who are authorized to help you receive treatment or shelters to stay in. So there was 4 pages of the same question. So that's what that was. And I hope that was not confusing. I mean, it confused me a little bit until I went back to look at it. But that just took care of 4 pages right there. So now we're on page 89. So resources for sobriety. Addiction often feels lonely, but it doesn't have to be. The recovery community in the United States is more active and vocal today than ever before. And I'm going to say this. There are so many people that have lost their loved ones. And I don't mean any disrespect, it's got the attention. And it seems like to be, and I hate to say this, and I don't mean it in a, this is going to sound bad coming out of my mouth, but I'm going to say it. It seems to be the trend right now. Because it's gotten so dangerous. But then again, it's been dangerous. Overdose is not a new thing. It's not a new thing. Drugs are not a new thing. Some drugs that are today, they're called one thing, which back in the day, they were called something else. And now maybe they've just been, I'm going to use this word, tweaked. Because back in the day, tweaked was like fine-tuning it, adjusting it, changing around a little bit. That's what tweaking means in my generation. But today's generation, when somebody says tweak, they automatically think a tweaker, like a drug tweaker or whatever. Somebody who's like spazzing out or whatever. Or doing something compulsively, or I don't know. People have different definitions, obviously. But back in my day, tweaking was something where, I need to take that and tweak it a little bit to make it a little bit better. Fine-tuning it. And I don't want to say that with drugs because that's not fair. But like if you, tinkering. That's another. Tweaking and tinkering. Kind of the same thing. Let me tinker with it. Let me tweak with it. Let me adjust it. And unfortunately, people do that with drugs, but back in my day, it wasn't associated with that. Not at least when people that I was around. I'm not saying that was the rest of the world because I don't know. I'm not in the rest of the world. But nowadays, tweaking is just a form of a person doing something. That's a tweaker right there. You know what? For one, you don't know what that person's going through. That person might have a disability. That person might be having a bad day. That person might have something going on. You don't know. And if they are, why are you video recording it, laughing at it, or making fun of it? Why aren't you going over and helping that person? I mean, you want to talk about that person. You're no better sitting in the car with your video phone or whatever, posting on social media and ignoring that person. You could have been that one person, that one moment that might have made a positive difference in that person's life. Instead, you want to post it and be negative on that person and just add to society on the stereotype, if you will, of that person. But yet they want to holler and complain about how important it is for people to get sober and intervention. Well, you just missed an opportunity, a positive intervention and reinforcement. You could have been that one person, but instead you had to be that person. Just my thought. Organizations in your community. You can find community-based prevention, intervention, and treatment organizations in towns and cities across the country. Most community organizations advocate for drug and alcohol prevention, but many focus on helping people in recovery maintain sobriety. Call your local hospital, public health, or law enforcement agency to tell them you're looking for help maintaining sobriety. Admitting you need help can be scary, but doctors and hospitals must maintain confidentiality. Many law enforcement agencies will redirect you to resources if you are not actively using or trafficking illicit drugs. They'll be able to direct you to prescription drug drop-off locations and other government resources. You might consider spending your time giving back to your community. Volunteering with nonprofit or community-based prevention organizations can help you find purpose in recovery, build a support system, and hold yourself accountable. So, if you, I believe, and obviously this is my opinion, finding a way to put your pain and your negativity and everything that is overwhelming you and hurting you, and redirecting it in a positive force of reaching out for other people, and in the process helping yourself. And I say that because while you're trying to help somebody and be an advocate for somebody and trying to let's say hypothetically you volunteer and you are a part of, you meet somebody, and I'm not just saying you meet somebody like as an acquaintance, whatever, and you sit and you chit chat with them, and they telling you the story and stuff, and they really touch your heart. So you make it a point to be involved with listening to them and being there for them and friending them and showing your moral support to them. You've actually helped them in ways, and yet you've also been helped in ways, because you both now feel that, for one, someone cares and is listening, because a lot of times somebody just needs somebody to talk to. They just need a place to put their feelings, and in a positive place to put their feelings. But also, too, it helps the person that is doing it to also teach themselves. But it also gives them a purpose. It makes them feel like they belong somewhere. They have a purpose. They have somewhere to put their feelings and emotions. And I don't mean like, all lovey-dovey thing. I don't mean it like that. I mean, sometimes your emotions get so overwhelming, and if you don't have somewhere to put them, they get very heavy to carry. And eventually that is what puts you under, because you can't do it no more. It's too heavy. It's too much. So being able to take that and redirect it into a positive manner helps you to divert your emotions and your well-being and all the negative and pain and all that, and put it into a positive. a positive direction. Finding a positive place to put your feelings. And it does help. It does help. I know this for a fact. It does help. That was one of the biggest things when I went through a trauma. My biggest thing was having a place to put my feelings. I had nowhere to put my feelings. And that caused me to spiral in my life. I was self-harming myself. I mean, I was homeless. I lost everything. I just could not cope with this tragedy in my life. And it was winning. It was winning. Life was going to outlive me. It was trying its darndest. And I needed a place to put my feelings. And eventually, I started to heal. And here I am today. I'm still healing. Believe you me, it's a process that doesn't stop. There's triggers, there's things. I've come to be my own advocate for myself. I talk to myself. I talk myself down. I talk myself through moments. I've learned coping mechanisms. I've talked about that several times in my podcast. I say my ABCs out loud or in my head. Sometimes when it's really, really bad and overwhelming and I'm severely upset, I will say my ABCs and I will do them in sign language. And I'll take a deep breath at the end and start again. And I'll keep doing it until I am calm. And then I'll do one more, kind of like a cleansing, if you will, and make sure that I'm calm. And then I will verify with myself if I need to do another one or if I'm going to be okay. And learning to do this has been a game changer for me. I have been so upset. I was actually making myself sick because I was so upset. And it calmed me down. So that's just an example of coping techniques. I used to do the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and that didn't work for me eventually. So I had to do something else. I've sat and sang nursery rhymes. I rock back and forth when I do that stuff. I get little, little ticks and stuff, if you will. I don't know if, and tick is not like the tick bug, but like little ticks. I don't know how to explain it. Stimming. I'll stim. If you're familiar with people with autism or something like that, stimming. I might have autism. I don't know. Maybe I have a touch of it. I'm OCD very badly. But I have come to terms to accepting and learning to accept and teaching myself to appreciate me. And being honest with myself, but also to forgiving myself. Forgiving myself for things I don't understand. Forgiving myself that I have come to learn to understand. But also to forgiving myself for things that nobody will ever understand or know. Because I'll never say. But they're things that have put me into where I was at before. And it's helped me to grow to where I'm at now. And for the first time in my life, I do not want to intentionally die. And I have never in my life ever been able to say that. Ever. I have always been that way as long as I can remember. I remember when I was little. I mean, I was young. I don't even remember now. Maybe 7 or 8, 5, 6, something like that. I don't even remember now. But I remember laying there with my mom in the bed. And I looked at her and I said, I wish I could take my head off, shake it out, and put it back on. What little kid says that? Trauma. Already at that young age. And why my mom never took me to a doctor, I don't know. But I remember distinctively saying that. Because her and I have even had conversations about it. Here as an adult. But I've come a long way. And it's just something that I have used to try to cope with my head, my heart, my emotions, And I give a lot of it also to God. And I know they say, put it in God's hands. And that is true. But I also remind myself that God gave me two hands as well for a reason. So that speaks volumes to myself. So anyway, knowing how to cope in different things could be very key factors for you. And honestly, life and death situation. Because sometimes you can feel completely dead, but not be buried. So, support groups. We're on page 90. Support groups. Social support is a key ingredient to recovery and happiness. Each support group is unique, and several groups specialize in helping people with specific backgrounds. It may take time to find the right support group for you. If you attend a support group meeting, that doesn't mean it doesn't make it seem like a good fit. Let me restart that. If you attend a support meeting that doesn't seem like a good fit, go to another one. Keep attending meetings until you find the group that is best for you. So one group might work for you, another one might not have. So don't give up. And if all else fails, start your own. You don't need a specific license. You don't need a special training. Be you. You can start your own support group. If you're going to take the time in your past to be in rotation, be in a rotation that is going to make a positive reinforcement, not only for you, but other people in that rotation, or would have been in that rotation. And start your own support group. If that works. There are plenty of resources and information and pamphlets and things that people could talk about, and it might just be another way for you to feel like you have a purpose, but also too, you're making one hell of a difference, not only in your life but in other people, being that one person. Because that is all that needs to start something, is one moment, one person, one opportunity, one breath that can take it all away or make it all possible. Alcoholics Anonymous. Oh, these are some support groups. Hopefully I don't butcher these. Alcoholics Anonymous is the largest support group for people in recovery from addiction. There are no membership fees, but members must try to remain sober. They're also encouraged to participate in AA's 12-step program. The 12 steps include believing you are powerless over alcohol and believing in a higher power. There are hundreds of thousands of AA meetings every day in communities across the United States. Number 2, Narcotics Anonymous was built on a framework similar to the AA. The only membership requirement is to abstain from illicit drugs and to follow the 12 steps, which are nearly identical to AA. NA meetings aren't as prevalent as AA meetings, but most communities have multiple NA meetings each day. Hopefully I'm saying this right. Al-Anon, AL-ANON, is a support group for friends and family members affected by another person's alcoholism. At these meetings, people share stories of how someone else's alcoholism has affected them, and members offer support. The meetings are designed to help family and friends cope with issues that often accompany alcoholism. Next one, Back to Basics. Back to Basics is a program for introducing 12-step programs to individuals seeking sobriety. The program is based on the original Alcoholics Anonymous meetings in the 1940s. It involves 4 one-hour sessions in which newcomers are introduced to the 12 steps of sponsors or meeting leaders who have already completed the 12-step program. The Back to Basics program is based on the 12-step program created through AA, but it can be used to aid a person in recovery from any type of substance use disorder. And again, feel free to look all these up, and your neighborhood, find out the closest places. And I've got their websites here. I can give those to you in just a minute. Smart Recovery. It is a evidence-based alternative to 12-step program such as AAA and NA. SMART stands for Self-Management and Recovery Training. The organization hosts online message boards, chat rooms, and online meetings. It also sponsors face-to-face meetings for people in recovery from a range of addictive behaviors. SMART teaches participants to maintain motivation, cope with urges, manage thoughts, and live a balanced life. So here are all the websites, if you want to jot these down. Alcohol Anonymous is www.aa.org. O-R-G. Narcotics Anonymous is www.na.org. Back to Basics is www.aabacktobasis.org. So it's aaBackToBasics.org. Al-Anon, www.al-anon.org. Smart Recovery, www.smartrecovery.org. It's SMARTRECOVER.org. We're on page 92. Let's see here. We're almost done. Okay. Numbers to call. When you don't know where to go or what to do to get the help you need, refer to this list of national hotlines. The national organization can put you in touch with local resources to help you on your path to recovery or assist you during a crisis. All calls are confidential. Number 1, Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration Helpline. I'll give you the number. 800-662-HELP. H-E-L-P. Or same thing, it would be 800-662-4357. It's the national helpline, provides information on mental health issues and substance use disorders 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. You can also call to receive a referral to a local mental health provider. And these are all confidential. National Domestic Violence Hotline. 800-799-SAFE, S-A-F-E. Or 800-799-7233. The National Domestic Violence Hotline provides solutions for men, women, and children who are victims of domestic violence. The hotline also helps friends and family members who are concerned about the safety of loved ones. It provides guidance and information on local resources. Next one. Drug-Free Workplace Helpline. It's 800-WORKPLACE, WORKPLACE, or the number of it without the wording. Ouch. Excuse me. I hurt my knee. 800-962-5752. This is a drug-free workplace helpline, helps employers and union representatives develop policies, employee assistance programs, and educational programs and training to promote a drug-free work environment. Disaster Distress Helpline. 800-985-5990. That's 800-985-5990. This helpline provides counseling and support for people who experience stress, anxiety, and symptoms of depression after a natural or human-caused disaster. Next one. The Partnership for Drug-Free Kids Helpline. It's 855-DRUG-FREE. DRUGFREE. That's 855-378 4373. It is a drug-free kids hotline. It offers a hotline for parents whose children are abusing alcohol or other drugs. Support specialists help parents develop a plan for preventing future substance abuse. National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. 800-273-TALK, TALK, or it's 800-273-8255. They also have the National Suicide Prevention Line. It's 988. So I know that's something in our area anyway. So that helps. And I'm a very big advocate. I talk about that in every single one of my podcasts at the end. The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline puts you in touch with trained crisis workers who will listen to your needs and help you find local mental health services. The hotline is for anyone experience a crisis. Veterans Crisis Line. 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. And for the hearing impaired, it's 800-799-4889. It's 800-799-4889. This Veterans Crisis Helpline helps veterans, their friends, and family members who are in a crisis. The service, provided by the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, is available 24/7, 365 days a year. Next one. National Council of Alcoholism and Drug Dependence Hopeline. That's 800-NCACALL. So it's NCA call. Or it's 800-622-2255. This line employs trained professionals who listen to your needs, help you determine the best course of action for you, and refer you to relevant resources in your community. So there's a lot of good information, a lot of resources right there, at least to help get you started. And it's all confidential, so don't feel like, don't be ashamed at all. Actually, if anything, be very proud of yourself. Be very proud of yourself. Because even if you're just listening to me right now, I am very proud of you for going and taking this step. Because just that in itself, and taking the time to listen to me in your ear, and hopefully giving you encouragement and hope and understanding and all the things that you need to get started to take the next step, I am very proud of you. And I am very proud of you for just opening your eyes today with all of my heart, because I, for one, know how hard that accomplishment is just in itself. Page 94. Reflect on what you've accomplished. It says, congratulations. If you've completed this ebook as intended, you've read 93 pages and completed 18 worksheets, questionnaires, and checklists. You've journaled about your experience, reflected on your life, developed recovery strategies, and practiced coping techniques. You've recognized mistakes and you've learned from them. Take a moment and reflect on everything you've accomplished. This ebook is designed to be a living document. Continue to create new goals, record coping skills, and remind yourself of stress relief strategies. Every so often, refer to the list of boundaries you set. Decide whether to keep them in place, change them, or create new ones. Keep track of your goals, create new ones, and reward yourself for accomplishing your goals. If you accomplish your goals, reward yourself. Positive reinforcement, even if it's getting an ice cream. If you have a moment of distress or you're experiencing a craving, find this book. Look at the reasons you became sober. Look at the goals you've accomplished, the skills you learned, and the prevention plan you made. Don't be afraid to reach out to your support system. There's no shame in asking for help at any point in your sobriety. Don't give up if you're still struggling. Find a therapist or sober living home if you need it. Find a support group near you. Reach out for help. Keep working, keep fighting, stay positive, motivated, and hopeful. And like I said, you can always start your own support group as well. You don't need to be any particular doctor or whatever. You're not prescribing a medical care or prescriptions or anything like that. You're offering your ear and your experiences and moral support. That doesn't need a license. That just needs someone like you. Says we can help you. This ebook is provided by Advanced Recovery Systems, an integrated behavioral health care management organization dedicated to treating addiction, eating disorders, and other mental health disorders. We manage drug rehabilitation facilities, eating disorder treatment centers, and sober living communities across the United States. We are dedicated to helping people affected by addiction maintain healthy lives after they finish treatment. We provide comprehensive aftercare plans, referral to support groups, and access to free online information to help you on your path to recovery. DrugRehab.com is an online resource provided by the Advanced Recovery Systems. Through DrugRehab.com, you have access to relevant tools and resources for overcoming substance use disorders. You'll find information covering all aspects of addiction, evidence-based treatment options, and proven recovery strategies. The guides on DrugRehab.com cover important topics such as how parents can recognize teen drug abuse, how alcohol and other drugs affect pregnancy, and what to do if you witness an overdose. The news section covers the latest trends, medical advances, and legislation involving addiction. The website also provides information for finding group support meetings and treatment options in numerous communities. And then, of course, it has the references of how they got all their information and who provided it. And that's the resource pages. And that is from page 97 to page 100. And we have officially completed this ebook of reading it. So, congratulations. And if you have followed me in all the other podcasts of these episodes, thank you very much. But also, too, sometimes it may come across that maybe let me rephrase that, because I'm not going to say it like that. I don't know what you're going through. I don't have all the answers. I don't even know all the questions. All I can tell you is there are no right or wrong ways for you to be you. There are unhealthy ways that are taking you away from you, but there are also good things and a lot of wonderful qualities about you. Those are the ones that you need to reteach yourself, because that is the real you. The beautiful masterpiece created for a reason. You are made for a reason. And if people talk shit to you, about you, towards you, whatever, that reflects on them. And I don't mean that disrespectfully, but I do, in a nice way. Because that is what's wrong with all of us. We were so busy categorizing everybody, stereotyping people, putting people in zip codes, nationalities, religion, sexual preference, marital status, whatever the case may be. We are so busy dividing us from each other that we are separating. And eventually, we're going to separate so much there's not going to be anything left. Human interaction is very vital, but positive human interaction is worth living for. So for all the negative you hear, all the negative you receive, all the negative you cry, counteract that with you being a positive. You want to be something different? Don't be a negative in a world that you were made to be positive. Because you're worth it. And it might not feel like that. It might not feel like that. Oh, you might be thinking, this girl don't know what the hell, what in the world is, what? And whatever you want to think, you are entitled to your feelings and your thoughts. But you're also more entitled to the good ones. It's one thing to hear it and listen to it and say it. It's another to believe it, but even more so to feel it. And even lifeline, really, to remembering it. Because eventually it is embedded into your soul and defines your identity of who you believe that you're supposed to be based off what everybody else and everything else has made you feel. People say, oh, you must be high. You must be on something. Be high on life. Either way, you're going to be an addict. Be it on life. Be high on life. Positive reinforcement. And maybe that might be something that sounds silly. But right now, positivity is all you can grab onto. Because there's enough negativeness in this world. We're running out of room for it. Because it's taking over. There's more negativeness in this world than there are positive. Everybody always wants to hear about bad things. And it's the drama, it's the suspense. It's like a drug. Honestly. Why? People want to talk smack about people. Why? There's no reason. You don't know that person. You don't know what they're going through. If they are spazzing out, if they are tweaking, don't judge them. Help them. Go check on them. Go listen to them. Maybe you might just be surprised. They might even save your life. And together, well, we'll have two beautiful masterpieces walking this world. Additional to everybody else. Because at least maybe in that moment, their addiction won't win. That drug won't win. That empty hollowness will have a little bit of hope of finding peace for the night in the most positive and loving way that it possibly can for the moment. If that makes sense. And maybe none of this makes sense to some people, but to other people, it's all too real. Don't judge what you don't know. And don't belittle somebody's feelings just because you don't feel them or can relate, regardless of who they are and what the situation is. Because I hate to say this, but I do love to say it. We all are going through something in this life. Not everybody is the same. We're not robots. We are human beings. Human beings. And we all have one thing in common. Death. We're all gonna die. And some people say, well, life and death. No. No. Because some people make that decision before the time of that innocent little baby gets a choice on having their life. Somebody else already decides it for them. So they never get a chance of being born and having life. So they too experience death. So no. Death is the only thing we have in common. Let's not kill each other. Literally. Let's not kill each other. And on that, I'm going to close out. If you are going through something, please reach out. Find somebody you entrust with your well-being, your in-depthness of your sanity and the hardcoreness of your well-being and your soul. Obviously, God first and foremost, my belief. Everybody has their own right to what they believe. But like I say, what would it hurt to believe in something good? We believe in all this bad stuff. We need to believe in good. What would it hurt? But 988 is the suicide prevention line. +2, I just gave you a lot of great resources. A lot of great websites out there to check out. Check out drugrehab.com. They have a lot on there as well. And if you have dedicated your life tonight listening to me or any of my podcasts at all, you have given the one thing in your life that you cannot get back, that is priceless and beautiful, and that is your time. And with that, from all of my well-being and my soul, I thank you. Because you have taken time out in your life to share with me and I with you. And I am very grateful for that. And I'm very proud of you. I'm very proud of you. And I pray for each and every one of you. I really, really do. And on that, I'm going to close up because I will start rambling and gabbing. But feel free to check out my other podcast. Like I said, on Podbean or my YouTube channel. Let me clear my throat. And if you have any ideas, suggestions, please feel free to look me up and send it my way. So on that, I will close out, and I hope everybody has a safe, blessed, and warm evening. Good night.